Hello, welcome to Rebel Base, IGN's weekly Star Wars show. Star Wars Celebration is kicking off. Depending on when you watch this, it might already have kicked off.
Yeah, all the times here are all local to Pacific. It's different, look it up, it's complicated.
It's really hard.
It's how time works.
Yeah, but the Star Wars Celebration is happening this weekend, the 16th to the 19th of April.
In Anaheim, near Disneyland.
That's right.
Yeah, I've
You're
got my
going.
Star Wars shoes on.
Yeah.
Star Wars shoes, I didn't kick you.
You're already there. We're literally talking from the future.
I don't understand
From the past.
I don't understand the timeline of this. Because I very much feel here right now. Should we? Yeah, so...
You're going to Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah.
That's amazing, well done you.
Yeah.
I'm not going, but I will be at the London event, which is
equally good. Both good ways of seeing it. So...
But me and Chris Tilley will be there to see stuff, but you're actually going to go. So we thought what we'd do is run through, some of the cool panels that are going on there and what we know is definitely going to be shown, but also some predictions and also what we'd like to see. And we've got some amazing feedback from you lovely people as well.
Yes. So
do you want to kick things off?
This is the biggie, isn't it? This is Thursday, 10 a.m.
Yeah.
This is the Force Awakens panel with J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah.
And we assume guests.
Yeah. On the actual official website where it says who is there, it doesn't say any of the new cast. There's a couple of old casts there. Harrison Ford's not on there, but Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher are both on there.
So that is the Force Awakens panel. We know that's when we're going to get
the trailer.
A new trailer, which we discussed last week. So that's kind of nailed on. But what else? What else? We're getting into prediction territory.
I would be very, very surprised if they don't reel out, like Comic-Con style, if they don't reel out all the new cast to come out.
And they'll come on one at a time.
Yeah,
they must look at the footage from Comic-Con. Disney, PR divisions of Disney must have some kind of famous with the way that Comic-Con works. When they did their own, when they did the kind of Phase 3 announcement for Marvel, they know how much mileage and how much kind of just internet buzz you can get from like reeling people out, and even when we'll get onto it, but just stuff like title treatments. Or a snapshot, like the amount of stuff that will generate, people will film it, it'll get leaked, and people are crazy.
Well, we had a tweet from Jeff Rothman who says he thinks the full cast of The Force Awakens is going to show up, except for because apparently he's a grouch. And also recovering from a plane crash still.
Yeah, and sometimes the two go hand in hand. So we've written down some other kind of hopes and dreams.
Well, I think they're not just they're gonna talk about it, but I don't think they're just gonna show the trailer and go. There's gonna be footage. I think we're gonna get to see, like a Comic-Con, some extended footage, some clips, and maybe get introduced to the characters. As you say, like they might be there, but just actually know who the characters are and how they fit in to this universe. Like, like we said, like, are we going to find out if Finn is Force sensitive? Are we going to find out if Rey is Han and Leia's daughter, which is what everyone thinks?
Which could be a great way to. That's a great way to bring some of these characters on. That you could like introduce the name of the actor. Great, we know who this person is. But then, as you bring them on stage, or just beforehand, you say this is the daughter of, and then suddenly the adulation, the mania,
massive,
will be huge.
Do you think it's going to happen?
I think some of that will happen. I think we'll get maybe some other people from the cast that we're not expecting. I think we'll get some revelation about who they're playing. And hopefully a little bit of extra footage in addition to the trailer, which will go wide.
That's a good prediction. Number 2, Star Wars Battlefront panel, which is Friday at 10:30 a.m. Now, Star Wars Battlefront is the reason you're going over.
It is.
To have a good old go on it.
Yeah, Mitch and I are going to check out the game. I don't think we're going to be able to play it, but I think we're going to see some behind the closed doors footage that they're showing. Like, if you're at Celebration, you can go into a small booth, and I think they're going to do show behind closed doors stuff to limited amounts of people, which they hope doesn't get leaked online. But I think there's also going to be a bigger announcement.
Yeah, well, they're gonna show at the actual panel. They're gonna show the trailer and the gameplay, and obviously that'll be available online pretty soon after. But what do we also think is going to be shown?
So, in aside from Battlefront, because I hope, like, I don't know anything about what's been announced. Like, I'm gonna find it all out when I get there. But I hope, obviously we see proper extended in-game gameplay footage. Because obviously when they showed at E3 last year, there was kind of some footage of Endor and people saying like, this is in-game engine.
Yeah.
But we've all seen stuff like that. You want to see what am I going to be playing when this game comes out? I want to wrap my head around that and kind of just chew on that for a little bit. But
have a good old chew.
Have a good old Chewbacca. And in addition to that, what I'd really like to see is drop the Battlefront. Everyone who's interested in games is watching that.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you maybe give a title card treatment. You give a little teaser or a name to the visceral Star Wars game that Amy Hennig is heading up. Yeah,
so Amy Hennig's like famously involved with the Uncharted series. So a lot of people are thinking, well, I am thinking that the visceral game that she's working on is kind of going to be like the spiritual continuation of Star Wars 1313. Now, Star Wars 13 is the cancelled game.
Yeah, that everyone loved the look of. Obviously, back then, it wasn't. It was a vertical slice, which means the game wasn't in full production as yet, and probably more stuff was made than we ever saw. And stuff has leaked over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But that. I think it was a game that everyone loved the look of and loved the idea behind it.
And the reason I'm saying that I think Hennig is involved is because everyone that saw it, I saw it at E3, it looked like Star Wars Uncharted, basically.
Yeah,
like it played like that, exactly.
And, you were tumbling out of collapsing.
That's right, yeah. And I think
stuff.
If you're bringing someone who's been really heavily involved with the Uncharted series, she's not coming in and doing a point-and-click adventure, is she?
She's coming in for a story expertise.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I think. So Jack Griffiths tweeted saying, Star Wars 1313 is alive again. We could only imagine. And then I think 2 crying face emoticons, which means he's crying because he's upset.
He's crying twice.
Next.
Sunday, 11 a.m. I think I've gone by this point. I'll be on a plane, but this is a panel which they announced recently. Gareth Edwards and Josh Trank,
that's right,
who are the confirmed directors of the first 2 spin-off movies. I know you know this, but Gareth Edwards is doing Rogue One. They're both going to be there doing a panel together, which is really interesting pairing to speak to the 2 guys who are responsible for expanding the universe on film outside of kind of the episodic films. Which is a really cool panel. I'm really interested to see what comes out of that.
It's not just those 2 though. 2 of the other people on the panel are the producers of Rebels. So I'm thinking maybe, what we're actually going to get is a little chat between all 4 of them about how they're dealing with this extended universe, the new extended universe canon. But we don't know the title of Josh Trank's film. We don't know what it's about. Maybe because the Rebels people are there, they're involved, and Josh Trank's thing maybe takes Rebels characters, and that's why they're there.
What you've made there is a brilliant inference.
I know, it's good, isn't it?
Bloody hell.
Almost like it's my job. But that's what I mean.
Have you done
that? It is a tiny bit of a reach, I think, but because they are there, they're talking about how they're working
with in the gaps.
That's
in the gaps, in the margins, and Rebel, the kind of reset universe.
And Rebel's obviously a massive part of that. But I mean, it's not a giant leap to suggest that's what it is.
Put a little bit of extra kind of information on the table if you want to go there. The fact that Kanan has got his own Marvel comic. They're really pushing that character and that section of the universe.
People love the Rebels characters as well. They properly have really fallen in love with them. So maybe that's what.
So that's going to be our prediction. We've got a bit more we've written down. So your prediction is Trank's movie might be in some way affiliated with Rebels.
That's right.
And my prediction is we'll find out some more concrete plot information around Rogue One.
Yeah.
Like who are principal actors, maybe some idea of the timeline of the movie.
I hope so. I don't know.
That's prediction.
They've got it's not just going to be a chat, is it? They're gonna we're gonna get some new information. They've got to go big or go home. I think.
Maybe let's go home.
Yeah, but that takes us quite nicely into there's a lot of Rebel stuff happening. So you've got the Rebels premiere Saturday at 5 p.m. That's so that they're going to show the double episode that finished Season 1, and they're also going to show the first episode of Season 2. That's Saturday at 5 p.m. There's Rebels Past, Present, and Future panel, which is Sunday at 12:30 p.m. And there's New Allies and New Villains in Star Wars Rebels Season 2, which is Saturday at 11 a.m. So we know they're going to show a lot of new stuff from Season 2 as well as the first episode. So we're going to find out a lot about Season 2, but I think she's not down. But I think one of the biggest things that's been announced before Celebration is the fact that Sarah Michelle Gellar is going to be in Season 2, and she's not on the guest list. I think she'll make a surprise appearance. Freddie Prinze Jr. is there. The guy who plays Ezra is there. A lot of the other cast are there. She's not down on the list. I think she's definitely going to make an appearance.
That'd be awesome. Now, and then Saturday, 1 p.m. is obviously a big thing that happened to the Star Wars universe over the last year even, is been the new Marvel comics. So Marvel are there. They're going to do a panel called Star Wars Comes Home to Marvel. We know Marvel and Lucas senior execs will be talking about new comics, and they said with 2 big announcements.
That's right, yeah.
So we know nothing more than that. So our predictions to what those announcements could be.
I think the announcements are going to be 2 like new comics with new characters we haven't seen that much of. Like maybe some small characters, but then maybe a big one that's going to lead into Force Awakens, I think, and it's going to be almost surrounding the sort of events of that.
Because obviously, Kanan aside, the other ones have been around the time of the original trilogy.
Exactly.
I think it'd be really smart in the run up to Force Awakens to have that kind of leading comic. And then we're saying we're hoping they're going to announce some other great Marvel talent working within the Star Wars universe. Now they've already had that, with Gillen, Mark Waid, and so on, but just maybe more of those names, getting them through the door working on Star Wars.
Well, I think once they've got such a massive stable of just really talented people. I love the fact that they're sort of looking inwards and just going, right, anyone want to write Star Wars? Anyone want to draw some Star Wars characters? I'll do it.
Yeah, it's not a difficult sell.
Yeah, so that's what we want to see.
Yeah, so Thursday 3 p.m. Smaller panel, but 15 years of Lego Star Wars.
Yeah, I think this is really cool. And Lego is such a big part of the Star Wars universe, and it's been over 15 years. That's mad.
It's so weird if you go back and look on the original sets that little minifigs are still yellow.
Yeah.
And I think today you forget that Lego minifigs were ever yellow because so accurate they are now, and
exactly.
I've got an original Luke Skywalker and he's a little yellow boy.
Ah, that's really good.
Yeah.
But so we know they're going to go through the last 15 years and talk about some of the highlights and stuff. But are we predicting there's going to be something? There's going to be a big announcement, maybe the Ultimate Collector series, like what's next for it? I can't see them not doing that, really.
So you want more Ultimate Collector series?
That's what I think.
What my prediction is?
What's that?
Well, it's either twofold. I'm going to hedge my bets. One, remastered collection of all the Lego Star Wars games, or a new Lego Star Wars game. Put that in your pipe.
The remastered thing is a good idea.
Easy, isn't it? It's easy for them to do. The only stumbling block for that, I think, is the recently announced Lego Dimensions.
Yeah.
Because that's I hate the term, but toy to life kind of thing. It's like a Skylanders, like a Disney Infinity.
Perfect
Obviously, it's not been confirmed yet.
No.
Actually, thinking about it, this could happen. Disney Infinity. They did obviously in-house Disney characters.
Yeah.
Next year did Marvel. Would make sense for Disney Infinity to have Star Wars this year.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's going to be announced in some form. I don't know where that announcement would really fit in, and that might preclude any further Lego Star Wars tie-ins. But that wouldn't stop them going back and remastering the old games.
Think so, yeah.
It might just stop them making new stuff.
Yeah, maybe. There's a lot of good predictions out there.
There's a lot of predictions. I'm putting it all out there.
Yeah, finally, one of the big ones on Sunday is the Star Wars tattoo competition.
Yeah.
Now, there's such a you can go on the Star Wars YouTube channel and look at the best tattoos of Star Wars Celebration. But I've got a pretty big prediction here. I think, Daniel, you're going to get overcome by fandom at Star Wars Celebration and get your first tattoo. And it's going to be a Star Wars one.
Yeah, you say, while I might feel the collective euphoria of people who like Star Wars as much as me, I don't think I'll overcome my aversion to pain.
I don't know. They don't hurt that much. If you loved something that much intensely, you would get a Star Wars tattoo.
I really love my arms.
Well, I think you should get a Star Wars tattoo. Imagine if you came back with an amazing Star Wars tattoo. That would be so good.
Imagine.
If I was going, I would get a Star Wars tattoo.
But
I would also go on the speed dating thing, because there's Star Wars cosplay speed dating. I would do that. I would cosplay. What are you doing? Nothing.
Okay. Oh, I quite clearly don't embrace life.
They're sending the wrong man here. I would get a tattoo. I would date some cosplayers, and I would. What was the other thing I said?
I don't know.
I would do that.
I'm just gonna go myself.
We're gonna end this week with some Force feedback. We've been getting a lot of it recently. Darren Cornell. Possibly my favourite bit of feedback that anyone's ever sent us, because it's so interesting. I just watched your video on Star Wars canon, totally loved it. So the other week we did one about explaining the brand new canon.
And he's referring to the video, not Star Wars canon.
That's right.
It's important to point out.
Although we are part of Star Wars canon, it's official. I have a burning question for you. Was Shadows of the Empire relegated to legend status? A big deal was made when it came out, and the Outrider, which is a ship, and Dash Rendar, which is a character, were incorporated into the special edition of A New Hope. What he's talking about is in the DVD editions of A New Hope, you can see Dash Rendar's ship, the Outlander, in a background. It's kind of a nice little Easter egg that they put in there. So his point is, if that's been done, and those are the new canon, how can it be canon if Shadows of the Empire has been relegated to legend status? It's a really interesting point, actually.
I bet it's not the only kind of little loophole that's in there.
And I guess like it's just a ship, so maybe the ship is part of canon, but the actual person who's in it is not canon. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out, because actually one of the books that is canon that we haven't talked about, not just novelization, is the one about the ships, and it's going to be like a really in-depth sort of thing about.
So maybe some canny person has retconned it that way. There's going to be loads of like slightly slightly outlying things that need to be like sanded down.
So
yeah, how's ET in it?
How's ET?
Why are we talking about this when ET's in it? All right. So next one is from Richard, who is responding to last week. We did a little list of changes that George Lucas made to the films after the theatrical release that we actually think were pretty good changes and we can kind of get behind. Richard says, I know this isn't a particularly popular view, but I like the change that George Lucas made to The Return of the Jedi, putting Hayden Christensen in as a Force ghost. As someone who grew up with the prequel films, they are an important part of what Star Wars is to me, and I think it helps join the trilogies together rather than some random old guy who only appears in one scene. And I think that's really important to remember, that because I think the initial backlash against a lot of the changes Lucas made to the films came from people who had grown up on them, whereas now so many new generations of people have grown up and embraced the trilogy and the prequel trilogy and all the other stuff in a kind of different order.
That's right, yeah.
Therefore your attachments develop in a different way, and therefore that makes more sense. And I feel like you shouldn't shut people down like that, whereas I feel like some people feel like, oh, well, I was there from the beginning. And it's like, that's such a ridiculous attitude to take to this stuff because it's for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing. Like Alex, obviously, the editor, has just had a baby, and I've been thinking about this actually. Like, what order do you, if you have a baby now, if you have a kid now, what order do you show them Star Wars? Because if you showed them, like as you say, like this, they wouldn't have a problem with this change if you showed them in that order, because you'd be like, oh yeah, I know that dude.
I just can't ever think of, if I ever had kids, like showing them in any other way to deprive them of the reveal in Empire Strikes Back. I don't know what I'm talking about around it. Like if you're watching the show, you probably know what it is.
You probably should, yeah.
But the I am your father moment, to like not have that. Just that is such a seminal moment that defines Star Wars, and to be stripped of that, I feel like that's missing like a major. Like you put all the dynamics, the dramatic dynamics off kilter if you watch them out.
In this change in particular, though, I can see for and against it. I can understand, people like us who grew up with the original one, and then having this, like, Hayden Christensen. But it makes sense for him to be in that way. Like, I don't personally like that change, but I can see where Richard is coming from. Lance Spence is also talking about it. He says, I agree with Gav, of course he does, on the Boba Fett voice changes that I talked about last week. So this was the fact that they'd gone back and changed Boba Fett's voice from being the original voice actor to being the new guy who, like, Jango Fett's voice.
So it's consistent. Again, it's one of those things, because we were talking about the first point about the Outrider, and we're talking about how that's now inconsistent. These are changes that Lucas has literally made to make things more consistent. Which you think would appeal to fans. But it's because it's overriding something they have a strong attachment to. So
Lance goes on.
We're an inconsistent species.
He says, I agree with Gav on the Boba Fett voice change, but I don't think that it's worth seeing Hayden Christensen at the end of Return of the Jedi. But why not? Like, it makes sense. Even though it feels wrong, it does make sense.
That's where, like, your emotions kind of interfere with logic. Because there's no reason logically that you shouldn't have a similar attitude towards both, I guess. But, we're irrational beings, aren't we?
That's it.
Philosophy.
That's your feedback for this week. If you want to get in touch with us, it's rebelbase@ign.com, or you can tweet us. I'm Cameron Gav. You are
at Krupa.
Exactly. And for everything Star Wars celebration related, make sure you keep it locked to IGN all weekend, because we'll be updating it with all sorts of lovely stuff.